Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some interesting news out of the land of the mouse, where Attractions Magazine has just revealed some big information about the brand new Star Wars Galaxy Edge ride. Specifically, the one we're talking about is Rise of the Resistance. Now, Danny, both of us are pretty big Star Wars fans, and it seems strange that I kind of feel like the talk of at the very beginning of the announcement of Galaxy's Edge, everyone was talking about the Millennium Falcon ride. Now everyone seems to be focusing on the Rise of the Resistance because these new details, it looks like it might be the best dark ride in the world. Is that the expectation here?
I think it has to be based on a few things. So everyone was talking about the Millennium Falcon ride at first when it kind of seems like it might be some sort of mix of like a Star Tours and Mission Space type of deal, something along those lines. But this Rise of the Resistance ride is certainly going to be one of the most highly anticipated attractions in history for a few reasons. One, the amount of money being spent on it. Two, the fact that Star Wars has such a giant cult following and for years has been talked about as the one thing that could, trump Harry Potter over there at Universal. Everyone said, if you want to take the momentum back from Potter, build Star Wars. And now they're finally doing it, so you better get it right. And number three, when Disney... Man, some of the stuff that Disney has done good jobs with lately on questionable IPs, turning the California Tower of Terror into Guardians of the Galaxy, and that, from what I hear at least, gets pretty good reviews. Avatar, everyone said Avatar Land's going to be dumb. Why are we doing Avatar? And nothing but great things to say about Pandora. You were there.
Amazing. It is outstanding. From start to finish, from the minute you walk into Pandora, when you do the rides, everything was outstanding from start to finish.
Yeah. So, when you consider all the amazing things they're doing with questionable or decent IPs, when you get an IP as strong as Star Wars that has the following of Star Wars, the fandom of Star Wars, and you're going to put, what's the number what's the amount of money that they're putting into this ride? Something ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't even have the estimate here. But it's
just the ride itself. Is a ridiculous amount of money. So when you consider all of those things, it has to be the best in the world, right? That's going to be the expectation from theme park fans. That's going to be the expectation from Disney fans. That's going to be the expectation from Star Wars fans. You've got a crossover of so many different audiences here when you talk about this. You've got Disney, you've got theme park people in general, you've got Star Wars people. There is so much overlap, and there's going to be so much high demand and so much anticipation for this ride. Anticipation is going to be through the roof. I think it already is. And these little details that keep coming out little by little here, which we're going to go through a little bit here, only heightens that at this point.
Well, and it seems like it's so to talk about the ride itself a little bit here, it is going to be a trackless dark ride. So they're going to have ride vehicles that aren't on a track at all. They're going to be synchronized to different computer spots in the room. Maybe along the lines of, what you kind of remember with maybe Empire of the Penguin, a little bit upscale, maybe a little less motion. So these ride vehicles are going to take you through these different scenes. And I think the cool part is I think that the first impression I get is that all these showrooms are going to be physical props versus screens. Where and that's the knock on a lot of what Harry Potter does, a lot of what Universal does, is when you think of rides like Spider-Man and Transformers, and to some extent Harry Potter had the most physical stuff out of all of them, and that's usually the most highly regarded of all of them. This is going to take that a step beyond, where there are going to be screens there, but just looking from the description of what Attraction says is the first room that there's going to be a battalion of animatronic stormtroopers there in that very first room. So this kind of stuff, Disney has always been known for their animatronics. And I think we've all seen the video on the animatronics coming out of Japan with Beauty and the Beast that look absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
Now to apply that into this and into the Star Wars realm, where they don't even have to look all that human because a lot of them have the masks and elaborate costuming. I think this is going to be outstanding from that perspective. The only drawback, you said, how could Disney screw this up, right? There is only...
Well, there's plenty of ways they could screw it up, right?
There's plenty of ways, but the one biggest one is they are setting it in the new trilogy, the Disney-owned trilogy that they created. So Last Jedi, not all that well received amongst many people. People love it. Of course, people still think it's a great movie.
Certainly one of the most controversial and polarizing of the films. I mean, generally the original trilogy, very well received, obviously. That's how it got its start. Generally speaking, the prequels, not as well received. There are people like yourself who thought they were fine. I think they're fine. I mean, are they as good as the originals? I don't think so, but I mean, I don't hate them like some people do. I think Force Awakens generally was well received. It was sort of considered like a reboot of A New Hope, just with different characters. Rogue One is my favorite personally, and I know a lot of other people who really enjoyed Rogue One. Solo was sort of kind of one that people were sort of in the middle on. Nobody really hated it. Nobody really loved it either. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was outstanding, but I thought it was really good. But Last Jedi, you could get 10 people who have seen The Last Jedi, and you get 5 people who said they loved it, it was their favorite, and you have 5 people say it's the worst one, I hate it, I never want to see it again.
So a lot of people were speculating at the beginning of this, when this first came out, would there be live actors in the showrooms, kind of like a quasi, great movie ride where you have, the moving ride vehicle coupled with the live actors. But it sounds like there's not going to be any live actors now. It sounds like it's all going to be animatronics, that kind of thing. So that's also something to keep in mind. I think the live actors would be really, really cool, though. I think they might be making a boat on that one, where if you could integrate just a couple live actors along with the animatronics, I think it adds that extra layer of realism to the whole thing.
And a little bit of variation.
Absolutely, where you could have people do different stuff in there if they wanted to. So I think some of the highlights here. I think the biggest thing that they keep talking about is that they're going to have 2 life-size AT-AT walkers in one of these showrooms. And on the little GIF that they have here, it looks like they're going to shoot at you. And I said to you, and this led us to a different discussion of how are they going to do these laser beams? Are they going to string them on some kind of like wire and have the laser beams like light up as it goes down? And you said, this could be the greatest dark ride ever if it's done right, though, right?
Well, and this is where and I'm reading through the article here on my phone, and looking at the things as we go through them here. But I mean, this is one of the things that this is exactly what we said about Steel Vengeance, right? This could, Steel Vengeance, we said, this has every possibility to be the best steel coaster in the world if they don't screw it up. Yeah. And I think this is the exact same thing here. So it's like, okay, the ball's in your court, Disney. Now you have the absolute best opportunity to make the best dark ride in the world with, it would be the best system, it would be the best technology, it would be arguably the best IP that you could attach to such a ride, and you could tell an amazing, unique story if you don't screw it up.
Yeah. It also sounds like there's going to be Kylo Ren, animatronics. There's also, they mentioned a General Hux animatronic, and that's where I get a little iffy. Because General Hux, if you know the movie, he's a huge.
I don't think character. I need to see Hux. I feel like I don't want to see General Hux.
Because Kylo Ren, you can hide behind the mask, and an animatronic is completely covered. And yes, Disney's animatronics are great. You go to the Hall of Presidents, and they look real. I'm just a little worried that General Hux is once again going to take people out of that immersiveness that they want, where I'd rather have a different Phasma, animatronic.
Well, and that's the interesting thing, because so are they setting this after the last Jedi? Like, when exactly is this supposed to be set?
Well, it's called The Rise of the Resistance, so I almost feel as if it's being set before
The Force Awakens.
And I think they might have said something about that in this article.
Because if that's the case, then you open up the possibility of having like a Phasma in there, or even a Snoke character, right? Because the problem is, like you said with Kylo Ren, you can hide him behind the mask. You don't need the Adam Driver, right? The stormtroopers and Kylo Ren, because of the costume and because there is no human skin, face, facial features, no face, no hair, no skin is really exposed, if you will. You have the opportunity to create ultimate realism, right? I remember Joe Rohde said in an interview with Coaster Radio, 15 years ago, when they were talking about Expedition Everest, the thing with Animal Kingdom is ultimate realism. It's not the Jungle Cruise. It's not animatronic animals. They're real animals. Mm-hmm. Everything about them is real. They could not be more real. You don't get more real than real animals. So when you do animatronics of humans, where you have the facial features and the expressions and the hair and the hands and everything, you always leave open the possibility that it doesn't look quite right. And that's where screens do benefit you a little bit, because you can take the actual actors and the characters and you can actually have them there all the time. You mentioned Hall of Presidents. How much did we hear about the Donald Trump animatronic looking like Hillary Clinton? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the risk you run with the Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren and Captain Phasma and even Snoke, because Snoke really is sort of a CG character anyways.
Snoke, if it is set before Force Awakens, you could have him be a hologram too.
You could have him be the hologram. That's exactly correct. So you still have the opportunity to create the ultimate realism, because you're not leaving open the possibility, the exposure of trying to do humans that look like wax figures and not humans, or that look like animatronics and look like dinosaurs alive and not real dinosaurs, right? You can make as many comparisons as you want. So the fact that there might be a Hux, I don't know if I want to see Hux.
And Hux, Hux to me was never a really super interesting character to begin with. Like, I didn't really care about his backstory or all that much. Like, they're trying to, force him into like he's the new, Grand Moff Tarkin or something like that. And I just don't see it. I'd much rather have a Phasma who honestly didn't get a whole lot of screen time, in the films. And that could be a really cool costume when you think about it. The chrome,
that would be awesome.
It'd be outstanding. So I think at the end of the day, the Rise of the Resistance, I think it's going to be a solid dark ride. It's going to be up there. It's going to be in the discussion with things like Spider-Man and Transformers and Harry Potter. I think the thing that's going to set it apart, and the thing that's the biggest question mark, is how well, because they said there are going to be screens in it too. Right. So how well, that it seems like the whole thing's going to be set in real life sets. How well do they integrate those screens into the overall presentation? Does it feel seamless? Does it feel like it's forced in? Like Harry Potter's in the Forbidden Journey, like, when you're going into screens, there's a big transition there. It's like, okay, I'm in real stuff, now I'm on the screen stuff. Like, and hopefully this Star Wars ride finds a way to bridge those things a little bit better.
Yeah.
Than Harry Potter did, because I love Harry Potter. I think it's in the top 3 dark rides ever. I do like Avatar better though, because it's a screen the whole time, and that changes things, because you're completely immersed in that screen the entire time you're in there, instead of having to go back and forth between the two. And it's even like the Transformers ride, that they integrated more of the 3D, of the realistic props, but those transitions into the screens are jarring, and hopefully Disney finds a way to make them feel more seamless. And I would rather see the screens used as background as opposed to focal point, and see the animatronics be the focal points.
Yeah, and that's my question is, yeah, there might be screens, but is it sort of like almost like Spider-Man in a way? Because the way Spider-Man had live action props, and you were going through live action scenes, and there were things happening here and there, not a ton, but then you would go into sort of like a booth almost where there was live action props that were framing out the screen.
Yeah.
Right. Voyage to the Iron Reef at Knott's actually does a decent job of that. Certain screens are framed by some scenery. So it's not like you're looking at a screen, just directly. I mean, on Transformers, they do a pretty good job of that. But then when you go to rides like Kong, and I'm assuming Fast and Furious haven't ridden it, and even with like Jimmy Fallon, where you're in the theater, you're literally, you're looking at a screen.
Yeah,
there's nothing around you that would even try to trick you. They're not even trying to trick you into that you're not looking at a screen.
Yeah.
Battle for Metropolis actually, at certain points, does do a decent job of framing out the screen for you.
And like that's kind of what I'm thinking about, is like the screens are used in certain ways, that the screens are used as like almost like as like a TV at some point.
Like a window into the world from where you are in the space.
Yeah. So and I think that's going to be the question of if we all know this is going to be a great dark ride. It already, just from these descriptions, we know it's going to be a great dark ride. The question is, I think we're asking here, is it going to be the best dark ride ever? And that's where you really need these nuances to set it apart from what's already out there, because we've seen that other stuff. If they just did Harry Potter, we've seen that already. And it's just a matter of like, do you like Harry Potter? Do you like Star Wars? I want to see something that's like, wow, I want to be blown away by this. And hopefully with the money that they're spending, that's exactly what we're going to get, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it has to have something that wows us, right? It has to have some sort of unexpected wow factor. There's some discussion in this article about some different things that may happen. We don't know if they will happen, but if they were to do something, that incorporated some sort of drop, or some sort of, spinning, to kind of take it that next level from a dark ride to maybe a little bit of a flat ride, or maybe a little bit of a drop ride. It doesn't have to be much, right? I mean,
because even like Empire of the Penguin, like there's not a whole lot of intense moments on it, but there's some spinning spots on that ride that you start spinning, and I'm just thinking to myself, that could be a really cool element to add into this, to add up, like, just don't make it be like a show, but add a little bit more intensity of thrill to it.
Right. I think that's exactly what you're looking at. And there's a lot of possibilities of what you could do with a ride system such as this. So I think it needs to be everything we're expecting it to be. And then there has to be a little bit more, at least, and there's got to be some sort of wow factor. I mean, it can't just be what we're expecting it to be, right? And we're putting a lot of expectations on. I think everybody is, but it's got to have something more than what we're expecting. It's got to blow us away, because ultimately those are the rides that you remember, right?
Absolutely.
When you ride rides for the first time and they blow you away, and it's like, that was so much better than I expected. That those are the types of rides that you want to go back and ride over and over again.
Absolutely. So we will keep you updated. I know a lot of Star Wars talk is going to be coming here as we march closer and closer to what we think is the June opening of Galaxy's Edge out at Disneyland, and then the fall opening out at Orlando. So it should be a pretty exciting time to see what actually comes about here with the Star Wars property. So as always, I am Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
And Ride On, Ride Warriors.
Thanks, guys. May the Force be with you.
Live long and prosper.